Hello and welcome to this is a Sports and Songs podcast, season 6, episode number 1. Tonight's the songs edition. It's a season premiere for the music episode. Andy, how are you?
Yes, doing well, doing well. How about yourself?
Good. It's November 14th, 2024. It's our first episode of the songs for the new season. We've completed 5 full, illustrious seasons of musical reviews. Now we're on season 6.
Just over 200 albums we've done, and
yes, I counted that up. It's about 220, I think.
yes, we've done some bonus episodes on different albums. We've done some weeks we didn't do an album, we had interviews, so we've done some different stuff.
We try to keep everyone satisfied here with the music, whether it's concerts, tours, updates, albums, singles, EPs, the whole works. So we're gonna do an album review tonight. The band is W.A.S.P. to start off season 6. W.A.S.P.
Going right in head first in the deep end, aren't we?
Well, we're jumping in here with the debut album, and there's a reason for it, Andy.
Tell me.
Here we go. We're going to do W.A.S.P. This W.A.S.P. is a debut studio album by American heavy metal band W.A.S.P., released in 1984. This is 40 years ago, Andy. Did you have this album?
Yes.
40 years ago. Now, W.A.S.P. coming out to do things new. You know, their name was W.A.S.P., but it was all acronym. It was, periods in between the letters. They were new. They did make some mistakes. Some of the band, someone thought that the band name was the Winged Assassins because some of the earlier European vinyl releases had that printed. Cassettes had the name of the album's first track, I Wanna Be Somebody, printed. Like that's the name of the band. Some is just simply referred to as W.A.S.P., like the one we're looking at here right now. So people were kind of confused. Of course, it was new. They've been around for a while. Blackie Lawless was in various different bands. Remember Circus?
Yes, I've heard the name.
So prior to the original release, the controversial.
And you know who else was in that band?
Chris
Nikki
Holm.
Sixx.
Nikki Sixx.
He was at some of the earlier bands that Blackie was with. Yes.
See, this was the LA, this was the Hollywood scene there with, Rat, Motley Crue were all coming up around the same time. But the W.A.S.P. was the one that took things to the next level. Prior to its original release, the controversial track called Animal was deleted from the album. The Parents Music Resource Center, or the PMRC, had labeled the song one of its filthy 15. Now, Andy, we're the same age roughly, and the PMRC was big when we were teenagers at this age coming in, getting our first introduction to heavy metal music. The PMRC was a big name thing that was shutting everything down because they did not want to have these inappropriate albums and songs.
All they did was help album sales.
Well, what it did was help, and maybe, I don't know, but they said that these should have. Before this album, there was no labels as far as explicit lyrics on CDs. There's no labels or stickers on the album or the CD saying parental advisory. So that's the group that kind of got these kinds of things going that you see on albums now. For the most part, I agree with it. If there's going to have explicit material or something, put a sticker on there, no big deal. But these guys went off to shut these bands down, and it backfired.
And the kick on that, and we'll get more into them later on with a special PMRC only episode later on. But Blackie Lawless and W.A.S.P., they saw that bait hanging there. They saw this. What a great way to get our name out if we just go over that line a little bit. No, they couldn't even see the line behind them. They went so far past it on some stuff, which was that was free marketing for some of these bands. And the sad thing is with the PMRC, if you look at it, it wasn't just heavy metal gets the bad rap because they were about 80% of it. I think John Denver had a song on it because he testified in court for it. So it wasn't just the hard rock guys.
It was the entire music industry. These guys really went after it. And W.A.S.P. was one of those that were targeted from the very beginning. And like you said, it really helped. They were going after songs that were just morally objectable is all that they really said. So lyrics and things like that were over the edge. They wanted to make sure that something was done from a parent standpoint. Now, kids our age, we were the ones there that we had a label like this talked about, and it made you want to go out and buy the album. And so once again, it backfired. They got the record sales went through the roof. Not through the roof. This album did not go platinum. It only went gold. But
Only.
Capitol Records, they're the ones that went to Capitol Records where the label this was, and they said, you got to pull that first song off. We don't care about the others, but you got to pull the first song off. So Capitol Records subsequently bowed to the pressure, pulled it. What the band instead did, then they said, we'll release it as a single in the UK in 1984. They released it with the indie label Music for Nations. And the single subsequently became a highly sought after item in North America as an import. So they got all that business too. They said the only way you can get it is if you go online and get the import. Back in the day,
there was no online either. You had to find it in the back of the magazine.
You had to cut it out in the back of the magazine and put it in the mail, a request, and order it, and they would be coming to you the import version of that song. So huge.
You could not get it as one of your 12 albums for a penny type of thing either.
No, it was shut off from a lot of those things. Now, the whole point here of the album review is that we're going to cover the album. So that was just the first song, but they have a whole, there's 10 songs on here, 11 songs. And the song I Want to Be Somebody was the first single that was released in the US. I Want to Be Somebody, that was released in August.
Yep.
Right before school was going to go in session there, and that came out. That and the accompanying music video was so popular that VH1 later placed it in their list of top 100 hard rock songs of all time. Now that makes sense, right?
Yes. It was a great song. It was pop catchy, but it was still a rock and roll heavy metal song. Like I had that pop catch to it,
Yep. It was more commercial radio friendly. I Want to Be Somebody. Very good. And then the song Love Machine, Love, Love Machine, dates back to Blackie Lawless's pre-W.A.S.P band called Circus Circus.
Yeah. That's a good song too.
They frequently played that song live, but never recorded it. So they used this debut to release Love Machine, the song School Days, and the song I Want to Be Somebody, with their 3 songs released in the US. The album was so good from a quality, I may not see quality. I don't know what the word here is, but all the songs on this album are good, Andy, and each could be potentially released as a single and it would have done well. Each of these songs.
Yep, they're all their own individual song. They all sounded a little different. They didn't all sound the same. They all had their own independence to it, but they were just all really good songs.
Which is always tough for a debut album. Usually they'll have a couple good songs, and then it takes a couple albums to get some traction for the audience to start liking the band. This was a brand new band. Every song was good. They released 3, and all these songs could have been released as individual singles. They were so good. So that being said, historically, recently, within the last 40 years, several of the songs on the album have been covered by other bands. There's a lot of cover songs out there that are being used from this first W.A.S.P album. Also, the song Tormentor, we'll get to the listing here next, but the Tormentor actually can be heard on the films The Dungeon Master from 1984 and the movie Terror Vision in 1986. So these guys went with the hard, the shock rock. They went kind of a combination of Ozzy, Black Sabbath. They did Alice Cooper, Kiss. It was a combination of all those, but they pushed it to the limit. The music themselves, it says heavy metal. It's good hard rock stuff, but I mean, it's not by any means death metal or speed metal. It's just good stuff, but it was considered heavy metal. Now, Wikipedia calls it also glam, Andy.
No.
Thoughts?
No. To me, glam metal, you need lots of hairspray and neon colors.
Yep. But I think on some of these that we've done in the past, in Wikipedia land, if there's makeup, if there's makeup, I think they fall under the glam because of the makeup. And these guys did have makeup and lots of leather, but that was it. There was no big hair. Blackie had some awesome hair. So here's the track listing. I Want to Be Somebody, good song. Love Machine, Love. The Flame, Bad, Bad, and the song School Days. Once again, it's kind of the Alice Cooper Schools Out. It's kind of the Motley Crue, Smoking in the Boys' Room. It's the high school theme is what it's all about there. Next song is Hellion. Next song is Sleeping in the Fire. Next one is On Your Knees. Next one is Tormentor. Last song is The Torture Never Stops. So a lot of there's S&M kind of built into all this torture kind of stuff, but it's still very good songs, very good music. Blackie Lawless's lyrics on all these are all very good. They're not just inappropriate Gene Simmons kind of sex songs, but Blackie Lawless, very good. Here's the personnel. Blackie Lawless, lead vocals and bass. I want to point that out, bass, that he was the original bassist and then later merged to just basically doing lead vocals as they got basses. But it was Chris Holmes and Randy Piper on guitar. And that made a very good sound also with the dual guitars. Chris Holmes, very good. And Tony Richards does not get enough credit for playing drums on this album because he subsequently left. They got another drummer in, but the drum work on this album by Tony Richards is unbelievable.
And say what you will, Chris Holmes had his substance abuse issues. There's many videos and interviews where he doesn't remember doing them. But his skill level he had with guitar, you always talk about different artists who were dating or married for a while. There was one relationship he was in that I wish I could just listen to the jam session between the two. He was with Lita Ford for a while.
Okay.
If I could just get like some studio work, the two of them just both on guitar, just playing, that'd be awesome.
Yes, Lita Ford. So Chris Holmes, had his bouts with alcohol. 6 different DUIs at one point. Now he's sober and everything now. But this band was unbelievable. So the band has been around. They've got, I think, 15 albums out by now. We've reviewed a bunch of them already. Yeah. I'm a big fan. I've got all of their work, but this album is so good front to end that they announced they're going to do a tour playing album 1 front to back, the entire album. And so when I got tickets this spring to come to the show at the Minneapolis at the Fillmore, I couldn't wait to see it. Number one, I've never seen W.A.S.P. Have you, Andy?
No.
Never seen W.A.S.P. live. They've had a turnstile of different personnel with guitarists and whatnot, but so it's not the same band. Blackie Lawless himself is a clean cut, a born again Christian. These guys are all, sober with different guys. So I wanted to go see what the atmosphere would be like, what kind of a show, because they put out a bombastic show, but now you got a born again Christian as a lead singer and playing the songs that all can stand out on their own. And it was great. I've never been to the Fillmore. Highly recommend the Minneapolis Fillmore. I think there's 12 of those Fillmores around the U.S. That's a franchise or a chain of concert venues. Very, very good. Love that. Blackie was awesome as always. He's a big former Oakland Raiders fan and always wears the jerseys with the black hair and the sports jerseys. But it was a small, intimate setting. Very good. I had a blast. Mike Duda is on the bass, and I, joined his Facebook group. There's a fan club for Mike Duda, who's been around for a while. The other guitarist its name is escaping me. Who is?
I got nothing.
I'll think of it here. But it's a good group. It's just a 4-man band. Actually, the bassist is Duda. Blackie Lawless plays actually guitar now.
Yes.
And the two other guys, the drummer's fairly new, but very good drummer. He's the youngest of the bunch, but the other two on stage standing up are both been with the band 26 and 29 years respectively.
Well, yes.
Great show. It's a fun show. The album's 10, 11 songs. They did not perform Animal on the tour, but they did all the other songs right in a row, just like the album. So fun to see. You knew what was coming. You knew the set lists. The place was packed. It's all just general admission, standing up and watching, and it's like going into a time machine to these guys. They've had some bad press with vocals and songs piped in and audio tracks, backing tracks. I looked for that when I was there. Didn't see any of that. There could have been. I just thought the show sounded crisp and clean. They left and came back for not really an encore, but after the album was done, and came back and changed the stage and the set a little bit. And they did Welcome to the Electric Circus.
Yes.
And they did The Real Me.
Yep.
They played some other very good songs that were mainly off Headless Children, Inside the Electric Circus.
Did they do Blind in Texas?
They finished with that. I'm Blind in
Nice.
Texas, and that was the song. And then that wrapped it up. It was maybe they played 16, 18 songs. Armored Saint was the opening act. I've never
Okay.
seen them. They sounded pretty good. I got there and listened to the last, I think, 3 songs from those guys. They also formed in 1984. So, I mean, these bands are 40 years old, not doing the casino circuit for the old timers,
Yep.
but putting on still rock shows. I had a blast. Loved it. Got some pictures. We put them on our social media page and stuff. But I thought it was cool to see Blackie Lawless, always one of my heroes growing up, and the others.
Inside the Electric Circus is one of my favorite albums of that genre.
They followed up with the second album was The Last Command.
Yep.
And that was also heavy rotation with MTV. They were right on the budding edge, on the cusp with all that. And then Inside the Electric Circus, one of the very first tapes that I bought from W.A.S.P. When it first came out. This was some good music. And once again, W.A.S.P. is Blackie Lawless. There's other guys in the band, but he writes and does the music and does the show and does the managing and the producing of the tracks. One of those guys that kind of does it all, and very
he
talented.
literally did it on one of the W.A.S.P. albums. A couple after that, he did all 4: bass, lead, rhythm, and drum. He did it all.
Really?
And put the album out as a W.A.S.P. album. Yeah.
See, that is just incredible. And listen to it. The other thing that I wanted to say before we wrap up is the timeless. The songs here are timeless. They're not like, well, they're old and boring. They would be awesome, I think, today if they were released once again on the radio. So love the show. It was a blast. I don't think bands like this are going to be around much longer. These guys are getting up there in age, and it's one of those things that I thought, I just got to see these guys just once.
W.A.S.P. has done a lot of cover songs too, but they still do it in the W.A.S.P. style, so you don't know it's an old
surprisingly
60s
a lot of cover
song. It's
they seem to when you go over their discography, there are cover songs almost on every album. Toward the end of the recording, there's a song or two that they cover, and very good at covering songs as well. Very good.
He makes it his own. He doesn't keep it the original tone and turn it up. He kind of tweaks it, which is great, because unless you're a music aficionado of the old times, you're not going to know it. Because how many bands got ripped on in the 80s? Motley Crue always had a cover song on there all the time, and it was stuck out like a sore thumb, But they did it. It almost got to the point with Motley Crue. It's like, geez, what song are they going to cover on this album? It kind of became a thing. But you couldn't tell that with W.A.S.P. unless you were listening for it or you kind of knew it, because they wouldn't take the popular song. It'd be a song that maybe made top 40, but not really in.
Farther down, yes, not the obvious ones, but they would pick. And I've always liked their group as musicians. I've always liked their stuff, but I love Blackie Lawless. So it's very good for me. I wouldn't almost a bucket list kind of a thing. I wouldn't call it a bucket list, but I've always wanted to see them or see him live perform. So anyway, we got to see LA Guns early this year, and Tom Kiefer we saw. So it's fun seeing these some of our idols growing up. Anything else on W.A.S.P?
No, just Blackie Lawless. Like I said, he's a perfectionist. We've used that word for a lot of guys before, but he's a very well-trained musician. His music's taken a big twist in his whole life. Grew up very strong in the faith. The 11 became an occultist. Claims he had Jewish heritage, so he kind of had some Jewish stuff in there. Then totally went away from all religion in general. Now he's back to born again. So it's kind of like some different musical stuff. You hear all of that in all the songs. Some of the occult stuff early on. Not that he's done Christian songs, but the cleanliness of when you hear Christian music, that cleanliness, he has that in there. So he mixes all those in there together. Very clear. Yes, he's hard rock, scream, but he's clear. You can understand him. That's where I always give W.A.S.P. credit. There's a lot of bands. It's like, that's a great song. What the hell did he say? You got to play it like 3-4 times. You know it with W.A.S.P.
Good vocals.
He gets it out there.
Good front man. And then, the years that he was going through trouble and issues, and I don't want to say depression, but possibly very down, some very black times that Blackie went through as well. Some of those albums, in his dark period. You can look at those just by looking at the title and some of those. And then he came back through it, and now he's a well-rounded individual is all I can say. That man has experienced a lot of things in his life.
Yes, he has.
Anything else, Andy, on Wasp or Blackie Lawless? Or if not, do we have any
I just got some other stuff. I do not have a slideshow for you, so bear with me on this as I just go through some stuff. We're kind of talking here and speaking of different things. Coming up April 11th.
Okay.
AC/DC starting their new tour in Minnesota.
They're starting it.
They're
Kicking
saying
it
April
off
11th in Minnesota is all I'm hearing so far. So I did some research today. During my lunch break, don't get mad, boss. It was during my lunch break. The Timberwolves have a home game that day. XL Energy Center and U.S. Bank have nothing booked on that day right now. I also checked Medina is open that day too. So I don't know where AC/DC is going to play. I got nothing going on in the backyard. If they want to come out here, I'm open,
Wow.
So they just said Minnesota. I love me my AC/DC, but I don't know if they're big enough for U.S. Bank.
Yeah, that would be
tough. Don't know. Unless they up and said, this is it. We're hanging it up after this. I love AC/DC. No one send hate mail. I don't think they're big enough for U.S. Bank.
Do you think the Armory?
I think they play something bigger like XL, I think. I think they could still fill XL.
Okay, gotcha. Target Center? No, not Target Center.
The Wolves have a game there that day.
XL would make sense.
Unless they're going to hook up with someone else or they up and say, this is it. Now, if you're following the band, they tour with a different band than what does the album. Brian Johnson, Angus and his brother are on guitar, but they have a different bass player and drummer who tour with them compared to the guys who are in studio recording the album.
Okay.
You're an AC/DC fan, you know that. That's not breaking news. That's the band touring in Europe right now. That's who's going to be here April 11th in Minnesota. Could be my backyard. If they got my letters, they'll be in my backyard. I don't know. Maybe it'll be in Mike Schmidt's backyard. Maybe he'll share and let them play there. He's got the equipment for it. He's got the setup.
Yes.
But so we'll see how that goes there for that one. Also, Skillet had a new album come out. I've heard their stuff. The boys told me I got to the Skillet. I've listened to it. I never bought a thing. This is their 12th album already. Their last album in 2022 went to number 4.
Skillet, okay.
I keep hearing their name. Everybody tells me to listen to them. I never have. That is my own personal homework assignment, to listen to some Skillet and see what they're all about. And like I said before, at the Varsity Theater, January 18th, Miles Kennedy. I mentioned before, he's done a lot of stuff with Slash on his solo albums. So there's Miles Kennedy's one to listen to. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up here. This exact date in music history, 1969, just a little bit before our time. Okay. The song Sugar Sugar by the Archies was at number 1 on the UK singles charts. The single became the longest running one-hit wonder in the UK with 8 weeks at the top of the charts. It was also the first number 1 performed by cartoon characters.
Wow, that's a good trivia question. I did not know that.
We're here to educate.
Wow.
Sugar Sugar.
1969.
I dedicate that one to Coach Mike today. Happy birthday,
yes,
Mike.
For his birthday.
Sugar Sugar.
I like it. Now, going back to W.A.S.P, the other guitarist is Doug Blair. Been with the band since 2006. Another very good guitarist. In fact, I spent my time kind of in the center of the crowd looking at both those guys on the side. The only thing I didn't like about the concert is Blackie Lawless's front stage skeleton thing. Yeah. It really, if you're in front of him, you can't see him. It covers him.
Takes up too much.
It's too big. It's too big and it's too bulky. That's my only criticism is, unless he steps aside to sing or play guitar on the left or the right side, you can't really see Blackie because he's behind this, this skeleton.
And he's built like Tom Kiefer. He's this big around. A regular mic stand he's going to hide behind, let alone putting stuff in front of it.
So that's the only letdown that I have is that really it was tough to see him. The other guys were right out in front. But it
Did
was
you
good.
put that on the Yelp review?
They'll put it on the yes. So Doug Blair, guitarist,
Okay.
very good. That's all we've got, I think, for this week. We'll be back with next Thursday with another show and another album review. Have a good one.
See ya.